In hip-hop, we spend a lot of time talking about who sold the most records, who had the biggest moment, or who's dominating the charts right now. But none of that tells you who's actually building wealth. None of it tells you who built something that survives when the music slows down. Because behind the scenes, there's a different group of artists, rappers who stepped outside the booth and created companies powerful enough to stand on their own. Not clothing lines with no distribution. Not sponsorship deals. Not temporary trends. Real companies, real ownership, real equity. These are the rappers who didn't treat business like a side project. They treated it like the main plan. They studied margins, built teams, learned distribution, raised capital, and invested in industries most artists don't even look at. And what they built quietly became some of the strongest businesses in hip-hop. Companies that don't rely on album cycles, tour schedules, or viral moments. Companies that can live for decades. Today we're breaking down 5 of those stories. Some names you know, others will probably surprise you. But every one of them represents what hip-hop looks like when artists stop chasing deals and start creating their own economy. This is the most powerful rapper-owned companies. Let's get into it. Chamillionaire's name will always be tied to the mid-2000s era of Houston rap. The mixtape runs, the melodic delivery, and of course, Ridin' Dirty, one of the biggest hits of its time. And what most people don't realize is that Chamillionaire quietly walked away from the traditional music industry while he was still on top. And instead of chasing his next radio single, he started studying technology. That decision changed his entire life. By the early 2010s, Chamillionaire had attended tech conferences, sitting in rooms with founders, and learning how startup financing worked. Most rappers were still focused on brands and touring. Chamillionaire was focused on Silicon Valley. Then came the big move. He became an early investor in several tech startups, companies that would eventually grow into massive success stories. He invested in Maker Studios, a digital media company later acquired by Disney for $500 million. He invested in Cruise Automation, a self-driving car company acquired by General Motors. He joined early conversations with the founders of Lyft, long before it was a household name. These weren't sponsorships or partnerships. They were equity plays, real ownership. And when those companies grew, Chamillionaire's investments multiplied in value. He didn't stop there. He founded Convos, a social video-based app built around connecting creators and fans in a more authentic way. It wasn't a vanity project. It was a real technology company backed by serious investors, including Mark Suster from Upfront Ventures. Chamillionaire became one of the first rappers to treat tech as a true business lane, not a marketing accessory. He was early, he was smart, and he turned his money into ownership long before most rappers even understood what venture capital was. It's one of the quietest, most impressive business pivots in hip-hop history, and it's why Chamillionaire belongs at the top of the list. Flo Rida might be one of the most commercially successful rappers of the late 2000s, but his biggest financial win didn't come from music. It came from a beverage company. In 2014, he partnered with Celsius, a growing energy drink brand. But instead of taking a simple endorsement check, Flo Rida negotiated equity, actual ownership of the company. For years, he promoted Celsius in performances, interviews, and social media, helping the brand grow from a niche supplement into a major player in the energy drink market. Celsius sales skyrocketed, their market value exploded, and Flo Rida's ownership stake was becoming extremely valuable. But the story didn't end there. In 2023, Flo Rida sued the company for unpaid commissions and bonuses tied to the growth he contributed to, compensation that was supposed to increase as Celsius expanded. After a long legal battle, a Florida court awarded him $82.6 million in damages. To be clear, Flo Rida didn't get lucky. He made a smart business move a decade earlier, choosing equity over short-term money. And when the company grew, the value of that decision became obvious. It's one of the greatest examples of a rapper making money outside of rap by thinking like an investor, not an entertainer. And it's a blueprint a lot of artists are now trying to follow. A$AP Rocky is known for fashion, for cultural influence, and for being one of the most creative artists of the last decade. But behind all of that, Rocky has always been a sharp businessman, someone who understands how to move in industries outside of music. One of the smartest plays came in 2019 when he took an ownership stake in Super Coffee, a rapidly growing bottled coffee brand under Key to Life. Super Coffee isn't a celebrity gimmick. It's a real company, one of the fastest growing beverage brands in America. It's sold in major retailers. It's backed by serious investors. It was valued at nearly $500 million as it expanded nationwide. Rocky didn't join as a face or an ambassador. He joined as an equity investor, meaning he owns part of the company. The partnership made sense. Super Coffee wanted a cultural icon who could influence style and branding. Rocky wanted ownership in a company with real growth potential, and as the brand expanded into grocery stores and fitness markets, his stake became more valuable. This is what separates Rocky from a lot of artists who jump into business for marketing reasons. He isn't looking for appearances, he's looking for equity, he's looking for companies that scale, he's looking for long-term value. Super Coffee gave him exactly that. And for viewers, it's one of the best examples of a rapper making a smart, modern business move that most fans never knew about. Bun B is a Southern legend, a founding pillar of UGK, and one of the most respected voices in hip-hop. But in the last few years, he became something else entirely. The owner of one of the fastest-growing food brands in America. Trill Burgers started as a pop-up food concept in Houston that exploded almost instantly. The demand was overwhelming. Pop-ups sold out, lines wrapped around blocks, media outlets took notice, and in 2022, Good Morning America named Trill Burgers the best burger in America. That award changed everything. Suddenly, Trill Burgers wasn't a local idea. It was a national brand. Bun B opened the first brick-and-mortar location in Houston, and it immediately became a landmark. The restaurant stays packed, celebrities pull up, locals call it a point of pride. But what makes Trill Burgers special for a money and music breakdown isn't the hype, it's the ownership. Bun B isn't endorsing a product, he isn't licensing his name, he owns the business. The restaurant industry is competitive, risky, and unforgiving, but Bun B and his partners built something real. Something that employs people, builds the local economy, and creates generational revenue. And he did it without needing a label or a corporate backer. It's one of the most refreshing and authentic business success stories in hip-hop today. If there was ever a rapper who truly understood business, it's Master P. No Limit Records made him a mogul early, but his most powerful business moves came later, outside of music, through consumer goods and retail distribution. One of the strongest examples of that is Rap Snacks, a snack brand that blends hip-hop culture with chips, noodles, and drinks. But don't let the fun branding fool you. Rap Snacks is a serious company with national distribution in Walmart, Kroger, gas stations, and convenience stores across the U.S. Master P became a major figure in the brand's modern era, helping steer partnerships, expand product lines, and bring in artists for co-branded flavors. The company operates with real supply chains, manufacturing partners, and shelf space in major retailers, something most celebrity brands never achieve. Rap Snacks works because it's built on three principles P has preached for decades: ownership, distribution, and consistency. Master P didn't rely on music to make this successful, he relied on business fundamentals: manufacturing, packaging, margins, and retail execution. And because Rap Snacks sells a product people actually buy repeatedly, it created a scalable business model that continues growing without needing a viral moment. It's one of the most powerful non-music companies ever influenced by a rapper, and it's the perfect example of what happens when an artist truly understands how business works outside the booth. And that wraps up part one of the most powerful rapper-owned companies. What you saw in these 5 stories is something the industry rarely talks about. And that is that the biggest financial wins in hip-hop usually come from businesses that have nothing to do with rap. Chamillionaire used tech to build wealth long after the radio stopped playing him. Flo Rida turned an overlooked beverage partnership into one of the best equity deals we've ever seen from an artist. A$AP Rocky positioned himself inside a company built for growth, not hype. Bun B created a food business that became a cultural staple in his city. And Master P reminded everyone that distribution, not trends, is where the real money lives. None of these companies rely on tours or streams. None depend on a hit record. These are real assets with real value. And the truth is, there are dozens more stories just like this. Rappers building businesses that never make headlines but quietly generate generational wealth. If you want part 2, drop the companies you want to see next. Tell me which entrepreneurs deserve their own deep dive, because hip-hop isn't just music. It's one of the most creative business cultures in the world. And the more we break down these stories, the more we understand what ownership really looks like. This is Money and Music, where we look beyond the charts and break down the moves that actually build wealth.